Hi Max, all well? Can you please explain how you train your plants on the string once you have all your strings up? The procedure, how you do it? Hey folks, reading some of my emails here, and I got a letter recently from a fellow out in, looks like he's in Colorado, asking me how to explain how we train our plants on the string. So, without further ado, tip number 62 this week. Max Raphael here from Hops World. How to train your hops on the string. Let's do it. Hey friends, so glad you could be with me this week. Before we go out in the hop yard, a couple things I want to mention. We're here May 10th in the southeast Pennsylvania, United States, the northeast part of the United States, zone 6. And now is the time that we are cutting back our bines and training our plants. But everywhere in the world is going to be a little different date. There's plenty of people that already have trained their plants and they're 6 feet tall. I saw a video yesterday of people still stringing up in Canada. So depending on your weather, you need to decide when you're going to train your plants. It depends on the growth of the plant, okay? Then the other thing, on first and second year plants, especially first year plants, we train all the bines to grow up the string. What we're really trying to do is produce a bulky, bigger plant underground to get a nice root mass so the plant in the future can really grow strong up in the air. By the third year, we definitely cut back the bines and only train 3 bines per string. But there are farms that only train 2. I've seen farms that train 4. And there are farms that put 2, 3, or 4 strings per plant. Maximum I've seen is 4, but feel free to put as many as your plant will allow. But typically 1 or 2 strings is more typical in the world. So without talking anymore, I'm sure you want to see the plants and the hop yard. So let's do it. Hey friends, glad you could be with me again here in our experimental hop yard. Yeah folks, this is our breeding yard here in southeast Pennsylvania in the United States. If you haven't been following, if you have, you know, we have this breeding yard and every plant typically is different. We may have 2, possibly 4 of the same variety, but 99% here are all different. Some are public varieties, but we're getting to the point where more than half are actually our own variety. That's why if you look right down here, there's a real yellow plant, which is Sunbeam. That's a commercial variety. It's kind of just for aesthetics, not used so much in making beer, but it's a really cool looking plant. I really love it. But looking down the row here, right here, this plant that's not so big is Srirachaceae, which typically doesn't get so big. But today we're going to talk about training the bines to grow up the string on our hops plants. So there's not uniformity here, but on a typical hops farm, there you're going to have every plant the same variety, the same age. I have plants here that are just planted this year. This right here is Vista. It's a new variety from the USDA. It's only about 2 weeks in the ground. And then this Srirachaceae is the second year. This plant here is in its 3rd year, and it's actually a hybrid. It's our own variety. Last year it was really beautiful, full of cones. I really am waiting to see what this plant does the 3rd year. We call this OP cross with OP. What's that mean? Open pollination versus open pollination. That means we have no clue what the mother or father are. Why? Because this plant was a little plant that we found growing in the grass, actually about maybe 15 feet from our hop yard. We transplanted it. We do that every year. and this is what grew up. So, without further ado, we're going to show you how we trim this plant. But I want you to realize a couple steps we took already. Early in the spring, the first thing we did was we trimmed the rhizomes and the roots around the plant to control the crown. Big hop swarms do this. They go down and cut the roots that run out into the rows. If you look at this little video from my friend George Canby, thanks for letting me use your videos. He goes and cuts these plants actually before they even sprout, early in the spring. We do it manually with a shovel. We go around and we trim most of the rhizomes. Some got away from us or kept growing. It's getting out of control. But that's something that we did. So now, here we are on May 10th. We're about 20 days into spring. On April 26th, we actually chopped this whole plant and all the bull shoots right down to the ground. Now that the plant's growing back up, we're going to train only 3 binds on this string. Now this plant's plenty big enough to have a V trellis with 2 strings, or even 3, and I've seen hops farms with 4 strings per plant. You can do that, but here we're just experimenting. We don't have as much space. Next year, if this plant does good this year, we're definitely going to transplant and take some cuttings and plant 4 of these plants in a V design to take the next step towards possibly this being a commercial variety. So remember, this is actually the 3rd step in controlling this plant so that all the energy of the plant is going to grow straight up and into these 3 binds. They're going to create all of our cones. Why only 3 binds? Because if you get too much on the string, you're going to create lots of leaves and lots of shade. You do not want leaves, you want cones. So you want sunlight to penetrate onto the plant and where the cones are going to grow. Okay? So let's get going and start trimming up this plant. So I'm over here on the other side with a little zoom in on the plant. And what I bring out here in the field usually is some paper towels and alcohol. I usually use this to clean my hands after each plant if I go to the next plant, so I don't spread any fungus or disease. Our hop yard has downy mildew, has powdery mildew, has blight, probably has every disease you could have, because we're really trying to create disease-resistant plants. So it's real important when you're doing multiple plants, not just to clean what you're using to cut the plants with, but also to clean your hands, because touching plant to plant can definitely spread disease. Now, a lot of people will use gloves. My hands are really hardy. They're almost like leather. But be careful, because these binds can definitely give you a nice little brush burn, and some people are allergic. I also bring a bucket with a trash bag. We throw all of our binds out in the trash, far away from the hop yard, so we don't spread any diseases. That's real important. If you don't know how to mulch correctly, do not throw these binds in your mulch pile if you know you don't have clean plants. Okay? So, the other thing I use the paper towels for is to kneel. So I've mentioned this before in other videos. I use single edge razor blades to cut all my plants. The reason why, I paid $6 for 1,000 razor blades on the internet. It's been a few years, so they might be $8 now or $10, but still, each plant, I throw it out. Why bother taking a chance using cutters or knife? In the big farms, they use a little spade to cut the plants. They do it really quickly. They actually have a little seat, and they sit on the seat. They spread the plant down. They wrap their 3 binds, and they chop, chop, chop. I take my time. I do it a little bit more tedious. But I use a single edge razor blade. I throw it away. If you're not going to do this, make sure you clean thoroughly with alcohol between each plant. So, everybody asks me, which bines do you pick to train to go up the string? Now, what I try to do basically is I see the string, which is on this side of the wire and the center of the crown. I try to get bines right from the center of the plant, and I try to make sure they're not the big, thick, gross, heavy bines like these out here, which are still bull shoots that popped up after. And obviously all these shoots around the edges, even way over here, need to be chopped. So I start chopping from the outside, working my way in, and I pick in my head 3 bines that are a little bit thinner typically. I try to see if I can get better spacing. Like if you look here, the spacing on this bine is about 4 inches. On this bine, it's about 8 inches, and this is a lot thicker. This is definitely has more of a look of a bull shoot. So I'm going to take this one, and probably not that one, which is a little thicker and a big long spacing here. I'm going to grab this little one down here. It looks really nice. I'm going to leave them 3 till the end, and I'm going to start chopping. So let's do it. So it's really simple. I just spread the bines I'm going to cut away from the center, and I cut them right at ground level or as close as possible. Okay, so we cut all the sprouts extending out from the stem. We left the 3 that we're going to train. And real simply, if you watch my older video, these always get trained clockwise, going up the string. Make sure you don't break the tip off and let it go. Now, what big farms do usually after this operation is they call hilling up. They come down the hop row and they push the dirt up over top of the sprouts. That protects them a little bit from any fungus, open spores. And it also pushes some of the nutrients onto the crown, where when it rains or when you have water, it's going to really help them nutrients get into the roots to make this plant grow. So that's how we train our hops plant. Believe it or not, it's been chopped twice above the ground, once below the ground. This thing's going to be a monster at the end of the season. And all the energy is going to be right here in these shoots to produce cones, not to produce roots, not to produce rhizomes, and not to produce leaves. Thanks, folks. Well, there you go. Tom from Colorado. I hope you learned a little. I enjoyed being with you today. If you enjoyed our video, put a thumbs up, give us some support, subscribe to our channel, hit the notification button. We're going to be posting more videos every week. Thanks for being with me today. Cheers to life.